Welcome to Land Academy. This is the Cash Flow from Land show, where we show you how to buy unwanted vacant land and sell it for more on the internet. I'm Steve Butala.
I'm Jill DeWitt.
We are your hosts. With over 15,000 completed transactions, we are the experts in this niche land flipping business.
We hold a drawing to win a free property every month. Enter to win by reviewing this show on iTunes and downloading our free ebook at landacademy.com. All right, let's get this show started.
Tyler Sheff, founder of CashFlowGuys.com, is a licensed real estate problem solver, educator, investor, and syndicator. Tyler's been involved in real estate for over 16 years and now maintains 100% focus on investing for cash flow and helping others do the same. Tyler and his team acquire, stabilize, and then provide clean, safe, affordable housing to those in need when it matters most. Boy, I have some questions about that. What a great job description. As the host of Cash Flow Guys podcast, Tyler teaches the public how to avoid common pitfalls found in real estate investing and inspires others to take massive action toward their goals. Tyler, such a pleasure for Jill and I to have you on the show.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Glad you're here.
All right, so that was an awesome big picture description, but maybe you can tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Well, Steve, this all started when I was working for the federal government. I was out on a ship in the middle of the ocean as a merchant mariner. And, of course, your tax dollars were paying me way too much money. Mm-hmm. And that was all great on the surface. It looked really cool on the top part of the paycheck. But when the IRS got a hold of me, they said, "Oh, Tyler, thank you for your donation, sir." And I was paying more in income tax than most people made for a living. That was kind of scary.
Yeah, W-2 can do that to you, huh?
Yes, it sure can. So I obviously needed to find a better way. And I come from a real estate background. I grew up in real estate with my mother. Had my real estate license for about 16 years now. And I was on a little sabbatical. I was out there bopping around the ocean, and I had to figure out a way to legally, stress the word legally, mitigate my tax obligation. And then I discovered the power of passive income. And that was the game changer right there.
That's great. I mean, how long were you out there? Let's talk about the boat experience first. I love boats. We're actively looking to buy a fairly large boat right now.
Well, I spent 5 years working for the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. That's NOAA. That's who predicts your weather and all that. And they have a fleet of ships that are based, around the world pretty much. I went to them with virtually no experience. I was a charter boat captain here in town. I did that part-time, when the real estate market was not performing to expectation in 2009 and early 2010 is when I was out doing charter fishing for people and doing real estate while the market was at its absolute worst. I got hired by NOAA because basically I'm a U.S. veteran, and they give preference to U.S. veterans for employment. So it was pretty much a shoe-in job. And, my first duty assignment, guys, was Honolulu, Hawaii. So you kind of can't argue with that.
Love it.
Yep. And at the time, it was the NOAA, ironically, that also runs the U.S. National Marine Fisheries. And being in the charter business for taking people fishing, they had so heavily regulated the fishing industry, it made it harder and harder and harder to get people out on the ocean to take them fishing. So ironically, the government organization that essentially put the charter business on hold was where I wound up going to work. And kind of, if you can't beat them, join them type thing. But yeah, I can tell you, we could go on for hours about my experiences at NOAA. That was just an absolute blast. I had so much fun working for that organization. Good group of people.
It sounds like my dream job and like something that I would want to pursue, after the whole real estate piece thing is put in place.
Yeah, but if I were you, I would just buy more cash flowing assets, buy your own ship, and just go out there and bop around and have a good time.
You just described our life right now.
See, there you go.
So you acquire, stabilize, and then with a safe, affordable housing when people need it the most. It sounds kind of like non-profit-ish, but hopefully there's some profit in it.
There is profit in it, but prior to that, I've traveled around the world. I've seen all kinds of different cultures. And when I worked for NOAA, as a matter of fact, I was out in the Marshall Islands, and I looked at how the Marshallese people live out there, and it was kind of sad that nobody was really doing anything for them. You see these government housing projects in the inner cities and whatnot, and they're run down, they're falling apart. And as I've traveled around the world, I've noticed that, the landlord ideology is do the minimum amount possible to a piece of property in order for it to generate revenue. And over time, the properties continue to deteriorate, as does the cash flow numbers. So these people that deserve, because they're human, they deserve a decent place to live, and at a price that's affordable. And I thought to myself, there's got to be a way that I can do this and not run myself in the poorhouse at the same time.
So what's the typical deal look like for you then?
Well, we generally acquire C-class property, which is the lower end of the spectrum. If you could use the different types of retail outlets out there as an analogy, you've got your Walmart, you've got your Target stores, and then you've got Nordstrom, which is your high-end stuff. I usually play in the Walmart space. So I'm looking for, my ideal tenant is your blue-collar worker, someone that gets up every morning, punches the clock, goes to work, comes home, needs a place to raise their kids, maybe a transition place, things like that. And those are the type of people that I help out.
So do you find the tenant first?
No, we're looking at, we do the little bit larger apartment buildings. We start now at about 10 doors, 10 units, and go up from there. Some of the larger pieces. And we help people get into the smaller stuff. We've, as far as our investing activities, we've focused on the larger stuff now. That's our little sweet spot. Really, is from 5 to 50 units. That's that space where the little guy, it's too big for him, but it's also too small for the big guy. If you follow.
Yeah, sure. That's smaller apartment buildings are an unfilled niche in my opinion.
They absolutely are, and unfortunately, in a lot of major cities across the country, they're run down, they're abandoned, and the ones that we usually buy are the ones that most people drive by and kind of hold their hand over their head and don't want to see it. We buy them usually empty and ugly, and what we do is turn them into something nice again. We restore them back to the way they were intended to be, and by doing so, I believe that we provide a better experience for the people who live in the neighborhood. When you have that one property that's looking good, and when we can, we try to acquire additional properties within the same general location, the tight neighborhood there. And we feel that we're improving the quality of life for the people that live in the area. And that's what our tenants are telling us. So finding tenants, we don't have a problem finding tenants ever. And we actually we have very little vacancy loss because of the experience we provide to the tenants.
Yeah, it sounds like you're treating them like a real customer in a real business.
Absolutely, because they are a real customer, and they definitely is a real business. And, it comes down to how you treat them. And with that, it comes to the management piece. That's the most important piece of my team. I hope the rest of my team doesn't get jealous, but I got to say my management team is second to none. They are exceptional. Everybody on my team is exceptional, but these guys they're some of the best. And we're very careful about who we pick for management because they are the middleman between us and the tenants, and we want to make sure that we provide that experience to those tenants that they expect or should come to expect. So for us, we don't really have any competition in the marketplace, which is pretty cool. That's why we do so well attracting investors.
Do you seek Section 8 approval?
No, we don't, because I believe I'm a little nervous after working for the government for 5 years and seeing how they spend their money and watching this craziness that's going on with this election this year and things like that. I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket in relationship to the Section 8 housing. I'm thinking at some point they're going to either start reducing, tightening the purse strings a little bit, or I wouldn't be surprised if someday they eliminate or drastically reduce the program, and I don't really want to be caught in the wake of that. So we're providing, the housing that we're providing is a little above the Section 8 market. These are people that are paying, self-paying.
That's awesome, man. I completely agree with you on the government subsidy piece. Yeah, so do you concentrate geographically in any one or two areas?
Our two markets right now that we're focused in is Memphis, Tennessee, and the Tampa Bay market, where I live here in Florida.
Wow, could you? Those are kind of far apart. Are there any management challenges or marketing challenges?
Well, initially getting started in a market where I don't live it provides its own set of unique challenges. However, I spent a lot of time on the phone, talking to people. And the more I did that, the more I learned about what's going on in the marketplace. Get on a plane. I can be up in Memphis in an hour and a half plane ride. And there's 3-4 flights a day leaving out of Tampa if I need to. But the beauty is that I've been able to put together a really rock solid management team up in Memphis. So I don't really have to go up there very often. I usually go up there when I'm sourcing properties, or like around Christmas time, we'll go up there and do a little something for the tenants in our buildings, and just kind of our way of saying thanks for being our tenant. And we do the same for our management piece. So for us, it's not a huge deal. Initially it was, of course, that fear factor, which is one of the topics that I've been talking about lately on my show, is getting over the fear, as a lot of the people that listen to our show, it's crippling for them. They can't get started, and we're trying to help work through that process with them to help them get to the point to where they can start pulling triggers.
We find that a lot with our members too. They spend so much time analyzing the deals, and they are waiting to make sure, all the stars are in alignment. We're like, if you keep doing this, you're not going to buy anything. It's interesting. You can get stuck there sometimes.
Oh, I've been a victim of that, unfortunately. I was able to work past it, but yeah, I can see that happening. And it's interesting now, your average transactions are, the cost for the transaction when these students are buying these properties, are these big transactions? Are there generally smaller ones, aren't they?
It depends on the person. It varies. I mean, we can teach you how to do multiple properties, buy a bunch for $500 and sell them for $1,500. Do 10 of those a month, or buy a bunch of 40-acre properties, for, I don't know, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 and sell them for 20. Kind of depends on where they are and their budget and all that. So.
Very interesting.
What we really teach is how to source undervalued property through direct mail specifically, and sales, kind of like for you, that there's no issues with tenants. For us, there's just no issues with sales because we buy it properly, and that's what we teach. So that actually leads me to my next question. How are you sourcing the properties that you guys are buying?
Boots on the ground primarily, and we're very well connected with the local governments and municipalities, to where we've established relationships with the key people in different sectors of government. And more often than not, we'll get phone calls from code enforcement and different parts of the city and county government that they know what we do, they know what we've done, and they'll call us and say, hey guys, we've got a real train wreck over here. It's right up your alley. Property managers are also a good source of referral business. They'll pick up the phone and call us and say, this building, the owner died, or it got inherited by the kids, or they've just changed management and everybody's in an uproar and people are leaving. And so we don't really focus on looking for properties so much. It's more focused on looking for problems. You follow?
I absolutely do, and this is how we start off our whole education process. If you want to 10 or 20 years from now wake up in the morning and go out and do the same thing that you're doing, which is go find deals, I really think you're going to get burned out. That's just not the way to do it. You have to find a way. We do it through direct mail, and I've been doing it since the 90s. You have to find a way to make the deals come to you. And it sounds like you're aligning yourself with people who, have a vested interest in bringing the deals to you and solving a problem. So in that way, I think kind of what we do is a little bit, it's very different, but it's in that way, I think it's really similar.
Yeah, because when you're out there looking at those lots, those people have those lots. They're not producing any income for them. They're paying the tax, but of course, every year they're writing a check for those property taxes, which, for a lot of people, that can be crippling. That extra couple $100 or a few $1,000s a year going out instead of coming in, that creates a problem. And that's a problem that you can solve. And when you're bringing those solutions to the marketplace, you basically eliminate your competition. My opinion, and I'm sure you would agree that, I don't feel like I have a competition, and I'm sure you don't either, because you're actually out there taking the steps to identify those problems, reaching out to those people via direct mail, and providing them a solution that makes sense.
Yeah, well said. That's exactly right. We don't have any competition at all. And I know I've been in real estate my whole life, and I'm sure you guys don't either. I don't say this kiddingly. You have a full-blown, almost ready to go television show here. Have you guys talked about that at all?
Actually, we were recently approached about that, doing a reality TV show, and we're talking about it. We've definitely talked about it because we could. It would make for some pretty entertaining television, but then to some degree it would be rather boring as well. Sitting there watching me talk to people on the phone and talking to the code enforcement officer for this city or somebody else. I used to be a police officer, so I know a lot of people through those channels, and I don't know if that would make good TV or not. I mean, we don't really. There's not a lot of sensationalism to what we do.
Well, I'll tell you what it might do is, I mean, you'd have more tenants lined up than you could. Well, you probably do anyway. But man, I think I don't know. I think it'd be pretty interesting. It's always interesting to see people succeed and at the same time helping people.
Well, yeah, that's the key, and it's funny because the little fourplex that we have in Tarpon Springs, we did a beautiful job renovating it, and it's more of a B class or a Target / Nordstrom property. It's a little bit out of what we would normally buy, but we were able to negotiate. We found the opportunity. Of course, it was right there in plain sight, and everybody else was ignoring it. So we walked in and captured that opportunity, snatched it right off the MLS, and everybody chuckles when I say that. And when I do speeches and whatnot, I'm talking out in public. They say, you were able to get a deal from the MLS? Like, well, yeah, there's all kinds of opportunity in the MLS. And the reason why that opportunity is on the MLS is that nobody's looking there. It's the one place nobody looks.
I have to add one little comment, Tyler, that, Nordstrom is an A property.
Yes, Nordstrom is definitely a property.
I'm sure your Jill would agree.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. And when she got done with the landscaping of this place, it definitely went from a B to more of an A.
So I've had a little bit of experience, not in the recent past, but in the distant past, rehabbing properties and new construction. And I'm almost always going for new construction over rehab. So, I mean, when you guys are done, are you in the $25,000 to $50,000 per door range that everybody loves to be in?
As far as the acquisition cost?
The whole thing, like when you're ready to turn the key to get the tenant in there.
Oh, when we're done, we're actually closer to the $15,000 range with renovation.
All right, now I'm really intrigued. And so is everybody who's listening.
Yeah, that's When 50,000 maybe down here in Florida and some of the Nordstrom properties definitely, or the Nordstrom, the Target product, but no, in the C class we're definitely. 15,000 is a lot. I'm kind of tweaking. If we're at 15,000, I need to be closer to 12.5.
Hey, if these municipalities are sending you deals, can you negotiate like a pretty serious tax break when it's all up and running?
As a matter of fact, many of the large cities have such tax breaks in place where, for example, I believe it's a 10-year break on our property taxes because we're revitalizing these buildings. That's both city and county. So that's a huge incentive. You'd want to talk about increasing your passive income, just eliminate your taxes from the equation, and yeah, it's a game changer. That's for sure.
You have to have like 1/3 less revenue then, because you've got that less expense. That's beautiful.
Yes. So it's win-win across the board. And some of the municipalities, I know Atlanta has these programs. They have these land bank programs where if you are a property owner, you can buy if you're the contiguous property owner. If your property borders a vacant piece of land or a sliver of land, you can acquire that sometimes for $100, where other people can't qualify because they don't own that property adjoining to it. So a perfect example where that's beneficial is we'll buy a building that's trashed out, but we'll also acquire the lot next door, maybe on both sides, and the one behind it. We'll go ahead and clear that land, put in maybe a barbecue pit or a little gazebo or something like that, or a playground for the kids. And then we fence it in the lower income communities will fence it in to provide them that safeties where the people can go and take their kids to play and have a good time. And that's one of the reasons why we've got tenants standing in line to move into our buildings, because we're taking that extra step, and the cost of that is minimal as compared to the reward. I can eliminate my vacancy loss, virtually eliminate my vacancy loss. That's and has a huge impact on the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key. And I'll tell you, this is one of the easiest interviews I've ever done because you answer the question before I ask it. It's such a logical next step to acquire adjacent property, especially in C neighborhoods or C building areas, because it's almost always for sale or negotiable, and you're already set up there.
Well, and one thing I found, it's always been, every day I learn something new, which is cool about this business, but one of the neatest things I learned is that apparently life insurance companies, and you guys probably know this being in the land business, that they're required after a certain amount of time to invest their money in something. The same thing goes with Wall Street and hedge funds. So they went out over the years and they've bought up all these pieces of land all over everywhere just to have something to invest their money in. So little ninja secret, I discovered that if I start searching the property records by insurance companies, some of the larger ones, you'll find they own land all over the place, land that they don't even realize that they own. It's not like you're calling Tom Smith because it's Tom Smith's lot. You're calling AIG. So if you can put somebody in place to track down who at AIG is the decision maker on those properties, you can get properties for pennies on the dollar.
Exactly, and we do that. We do that exact thing. I have not spoken with anybody who's talked about that out loud in a lot of years. My job right out of college, I did a full commission stint. I'm from Detroit, and that's all I did was represent insurance companies, managing properties in inner city Detroit or in the outskirts of Detroit, managing large, what most of them were office buildings, but try to manage them back to health and then sell them. That they were ready to get out of those assets, but that's a little known. I've honestly forgot about it until we just started talking here.
Huh.
So that's great. Yeah, if you can find a decision maker, that's the key.
That is the key. That is definitely the key. And I guess what's one of those things where everything works, nothing doesn't. One of the little tactics that we use here locally in the Tampa Bay area is when I can't get a hold of a landowner, I'll just put a for sale sign in the front yard with my phone number on it. And that works really well because all the tenants start calling the property manager that I can't find and saying, "Hey, Mr. Smith, is this place for sale?" And they go, "Well, no, it's not for sale." And then I get a phone call, and that leads me to the property owner. So that little strategy works out pretty well.
When we wanted to get back in the day when we wanted to get a new listing, we would have the whole sign made up. This is long before the internet, and we would lay the sign down in front of the, in a place somewhere that was where everyone could see it driving by, but not put it up, stick it in the ground. And that was like 80% of it. So it's kind of similar.
Right. That's cool. I like that.
So where do you see this all going in 5 years or 15 years?
Well, retirement. That's the most immediate goal is retirement. We've got family involved in the business, and we're bringing people in. We keep adding to our team over time. And we're getting ready to branch out into the educational piece. And one of the things that I love about what you guys are doing is you put together educational materials that make sense. You're not gurus, so to speak. You're not selling some garbage that doesn't work. And I see a lot of that on the regular real estate side as far as the rental property and the fixing and flipping and all this. There's these $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 guru programs out there that by the time the people are done, they're not taking anything away from it except for a credit card bill. And I love what you guys are doing, that course that you guys are putting out. Mm-hmm. As far as it's actionable. It requires people to, number one, take action, but it's a great process, and you provide the support after the fact, which is huge. So frankly, by looking through your website and some of your materials, it's kind of inspired us to take things to the next level. And what the information we put out, and we've been giving away a lot of it for free locally in the marketplace, talking about, we do a little cash flow workshops here, as we are licensed real estate. My wife and I are both licensed real estate professionals, but we're not your typical realtor, so to speak. So our next steps are, we're going to kind of do a little paradigm shift in the marketplace and bring a better educational product to the public, something that makes sense, that's actionable, that teaches people how to buy and hold for the long term, buy for cash flow, because really nobody's teaching that. Everybody's teaching get rich quick.
Yeah, I couldn't pay for this kind of interview, by the way, Tyler. Thank you. But all kidding aside, I don't know of another entity, and we set out right from the beginning to actually provide the tools that the pros use, and not just the education. So most of the education packages that I reviewed before we decided to go forward with this, they were just a lot of theory and some descriptions about some stories and some things like that. And we actually have released a product called Data to Doorstep, which is for a monthly fee, you can access the same database that First American Title uses.
Okay.
It's essentially a collection of all the 98% of the assessors' databases, the county databases in the country. It's the same stuff that First American uses to issue title policies. So you have access to that data, and then we show everyone, or all of our members, exactly how to scrub the data down, and then take advantage of sending out direct mail offers, not just postcards and letters of interest, using a printer that is, a printing entity in California that specializes in doing this type of printing. So it's the cheapest and most efficient out there. So we provide all the tools, the education, and the tools to succeed, and the support. So I think that's why we have such a high percentage of people who are succeeding as members.
Well, your reputation in the street precedes you. People love you. What you're doing out there is great, and you're inspiring people. Not only are you inspiring people, but you're giving them the actionable steps and providing them with the tools necessary to actually make it happen. You're not selling them concepts. You're selling them facts, and that's exactly what we want to do, is to provide them that step-by-step, provide them that information that they need. And when you have that data source, like you were just talking about, your data to doorstep, that's all fine and good. But if you didn't provide the supportive materials to teach the student how to interpret that information and how to find opportunity within that information, which is what most of the guru types out there are doing, they'll turn them on to a product, so to speak, but not really explain how to harness the power of it. And you guys have done a great job of taking the student all the way, A to Z, through the process. I just think that's great. Hats off to you guys. You've done a great job with that.
Thanks, man. Every time we get a compliment, I just figure people want to look at Joe more. That's really what it comes down to.
Well, yeah, there is that. That's always that. I have the same thing because I have my own Jill.
Thank you. We used to joke. We joke around here. Steven always says any Steve will do. Well, now with you and I, with your wife, we could say any Jill will do.
Exactly.
Tyler, it's been a great 30 minutes speaking with you. It's so refreshing to hear a new take in the real estate market, and not just, let's buy a house on the MLS and flip it. I think it's great that you're filling a niche and you're sourcing property. I mean, I learned a ton. Seriously, I learned a ton on this call, and that doesn't happen too often.
Well, that's great. I appreciate you guys taking the time to interview me. It's a great honor.
All right, man. Well, you know what? Let's do it again. Seriously, we don't say that too often either, but maybe we'll schedule something again.
Well, we do it. I need to have you guys on my show because the land investing is intriguing. It's very intriguing, and I love the way you guys are going about it. So, yeah, we'll definitely get you on my show as well, because my listeners would just love to have you on my show.
Thank you. We'd love that.
Tyler Sheff, I don't know, how can I summarize this? Small apartment building, C-class extraordinaire. How's that?
We have a ways to go, but I'm okay with that.
Wait, let's see how Jill said it.
Oh gosh, no. No, that was good.
All right. So great to speak with you, Tyler. Thanks, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, guys.
We hold a drawing to win a free property every month. Enter to win by reviewing this show on iTunes and downloading our free ebook at landacademy.com.
If you want to get involved or you need more information about our profitable, niche real estate operation, call 480-467-0359. You just might get Jill at the other end of the line.
landacademy.com. You are not alone in your real estate ambition.